70 years ago today, where I'm standing would have been a beautiful day along Lake Michigan. In the 80s to 70s, dew points in the 60s, would have been a beautiful day to be on the beach. That is until around 5:45 when storms were moving through this area. On April 3rd, 1956. Storms moved through this area and caused, well, what this video is about. And now I'll let future me explain what happened to cause why I'm recording today.
April 3rd, 1956 was an extremely out-of-the-ordinary day for West Michigan. Temperatures in Holland and Kalamazoo were in the 80s, while Muskegon and Grand Rapids recorded temperatures in the 70s. Dew points in West Michigan were situated in the 60s. Even along the lakeshore, on the coast, where temperatures like this are not normal this early in the year, and dew points at 60 degrees even are rare later in the year, especially along the coastline. This whole system set up for one of the most volatile days in West Michigan history. April 3rd, 1956, which produced 3 tornadoes in West Michigan, 1 tornado in northern Michigan. The tornado in northern Michigan was rated F4, while the tornadoes in lower Michigan, the Saugatuck to Holland, F4, Hudsonville, Jenison, Standale, up to Trufant, F5, and the Bangor to Lowell, F3 tornado, all touched down on this day. All the images you're seeing are from the F4 in Holland to Saugatuck.
Anyways, we're now here at Opal Beach, where I began the video. Right here is the beach house. This beach house was destroyed by an F4 tornado that began as a tornadic waterspout just behind me. It made its way up onto the beach and impacted this structure, which I don't know anything about it. I don't know how badly damaged it was or what it even looked like. All I know is that it was destroyed. They have a historical marker about the beach, and I'll show you. As you can see, in 1957, it was 1956, this marker is wrong. A tornado razed both the full-service beach house, shown at the right there, the decommissioned Saugatuck Lighthouse. I'm sorry if I'm shaking a lot. It's cold out, if you can't tell. It's only about 30 degrees. Back then it was 80. I know I'm not filming this on April 3rd, 1956, or 2026, I should say, 70 years later, but I'm going to be out of state on a vacation, so I can't record. The tornado then proceeded to go that way and raze the old Saugatuck Lighthouse that was decommissioned. I'm going to make my way over there and show you what the area looks like now. Anyways, you can see that, not the greatest. It's right behind those trees in the dead center of your screen. I am actively hiking because the best path is sand. They don't have an actual path to it. I've never actually been there, so I don't know. There's a path, I just don't, I think I see it right through there. And you can see it right there. That's where the old lighthouse was. I don't know if someone lives there. They might. I think they do. There's a dock. But that's where the old lighthouse used to be. I can't get there, so I can't show you what. There's any debris still left there. So, yeah. Okay, so I was wrong. Gibson was not impacted. But near Gibson was. So, I'm sorry about that. I am now at that location where the tornado crossed through, just outside of the Felt Mansion. Given this is kind of a residential area, I'm not going to get out. And it was just very brief. Right around here is where the funnel across, and it would have impacted modern day that house and these homes along here. The tornado then continued that way, which will go to the final location. Actually, one of the two more locations. The final location that's not in where I'm not going to be walking. I'm being brief here just because it's kind of a busier road, but right through here is where that F4 would have ripped through and destroyed a farm right over there. Then we'll continue across this road right down that way into Holland, Michigan, where would not do major damage to the actual residential areas, but would lift inside the residential areas. Now, as I'm driving to the next location, I'd like to do one thing. This is kind of the point where I'm going to cover some of the more modern things to talk about. These tornadoes that I'm going to be talking about are mostly forgotten by people outside of West Michigan. Like, even in West Michigan, the Saugatuck to Holland F4, that's a forgotten F4, given the fact that very few people actually saw it. The Hudsonville F5, that one's remembered more so because that's the main tornado of the day. The Bangor to Lowell F3, no one knows a thing about that because it's an F3, it's forgotten. But you gotta remember, it was the longest track tornado of the day in West Michigan. That's something I have not covered yet, but it was 55 miles. This F4 was only 9 miles. And another reason the Hudsonville tornado is more remembered, real quick, the F4 also ripped right through here. Kind of a residentially area now, not that residentially back then. It ripped right through here, which you can't really see. It's nothing very special, just some homes. No signs of a tornado. Because back then it was just a farm, fields. That's all it was back then. So there's not a lot of signs of that F4 damage because of the fields. But the Hudsonville F5, I got a little sidetracked. That tornado, it's in pop culture, specifically a song by La Dispute called Hudsonville MI 1956. Really good song. It will be linked in the description of this video. So will all the other sources I got my information from. Tornado paths I got directly from Tornado Archive, which you can go look at if you really want to. I did talk about how this was a part of a 2-day outbreak with 2 F4s that touched down in Oklahoma the day before, and both moved into kind of Kansas and Missouri. One just straight into Kansas, the other into Joplin, Missouri specifically. But April 2nd was more localized than April 3rd. April 3rd, I talked about how there was F4s in Tennessee, Wisconsin, and F3 in Kentucky. I didn't cover the F2 in Arkansas and Mississippi that basically crossed the whole state. I forget exactly what state because I'm not looking at Tornado Archive right now. But we are getting close to the next location. This little ramble I'm going on about is already 3 minutes. So yeah, I've done multiple turns. So we're now going to get to the final location, which is not that far because this tornado, remember, was only on the ground for 9 miles. And it was an F4. Shortest tornado in Michigan that day, because also up north there was not Traverse City, never hit Traverse City, but another F4 in northern Michigan, which I'm not going to cover, but another incredibly strong tornado, another F4 that touched down on the lakeshore. So we're going to get to that location. I'm not going to walk because I just remembered there's no good parking in that little neighborhood, so it's going to be kind of like this. I'm going to be driving and you can see. So that's what this is. We're going to be going to Hudsonville, and then we're going to do the F3. Okay, so I don't know how well this camera is, but right through here is where the tornado kind of ripped. This is an area that's a little bit more unique. Because 27th Street, it lifted a couple block, like a block or two away. I'll go to where it lifted in a second. But this street, it passed over. The thing that's the most intriguing about it is my grandfather lived here. I know exactly where he lived, the exact house. It still exists. At the time, it was not doing major damage. It was probably doing F1, F0 damage. Not much. He lived right there at 57. Tornado went right past, about 60 feet away. I'm now going to cut to his interview I did with him, which is that special thing I talked about.
These next few seconds are going to be the exact things my grandfather experienced on April 3rd, 1956. These have never been heard by anyone else. These are not anywhere you can find. This is the first time that these experiences have ever been shared publicly to the world.
What I remember of that day, it was a very warm day out. We went indoors for dinner. And then after that, my brother and I went outdoors to play in the driveway, and we looked up in the sky and saw like a big black, what we thought a smokestack. So we called my dad out to ask, Dad, what do you think that is? He was confused for a while, but then he said, oh my God, that is a tornado. Get into the basement. So we all ran into the basement, and luckily our neighborhood was spared of any damage, but not the following town.
So that's his interview. That's his story. That's what he experienced. The tornado, we're now back kind of one road south. The tornado ripped through here as well. I don't know any of the damage. I do believe it was just some branch damage. That's all they found. I don't think there was shingle damage. I never read anything about that. But along Washington Avenue, I've said this, but there were barrels from that farm that I showed, which is insane, that because that farm was quite a good distance away from Washington Avenue. But now that tornado, 27th is where my grandfather lived. When I said it lifted not that far away, I think if I take 26th Street, it's where it lifted. See, it really weakened by the time it got into Holland. It lifted, I believe it's this road, maybe one over, but it lifted I don't know why I'm thinking this. I'm thinking it did a slight occlusion. I forget. I think it did. I might be wrong. You know what? I think, right, it's on that weird kind of road area. Came through here, and I think it lifted right around, kind of, you can't really see, but right over there somewhere. Don't exactly know 100%. You can look at Google Maps and find out. Now I'm going to go bring y'all to the site of Hudsonville F5. Here we go. Okay, I'm again not getting out just because I did not know how busy this road kind of is. But the F5 touched down right back there. That made its way directly that way into Hudsonville, Michigan. Relatively shortly after it had touched down, it crossed where the modern day interstate is back there, as well as eventually it would come to cross Chicago Drive after doing its first F5 damage inside of Hudsonville. This corner may not look like it's old. But yeah, it's not old. Everything you see has been built within the last 70 years. This is where the worst of the tornado damage in Hudsonville, at least the first major part, was, as it came right through here, leveling every structure it hit. Every building around here is new. And of course, this like neighbor subdivision did not exist, but it would have ripped right through where that subdivision is, and then through that field towards more of Hudsonville and Jenison. 70 years ago, this is one of the other spots the F5 went through. We are just outside of Standale. Just over there, that's Fennessy Lake. You can't see it, there's woods. But you can see, there's all these shorter, young growths. This is because right through here, every tree was snapped. I'll flash up a picture here, like now, of the Grand River. That was the Grand River after this F5 went through, and it snapped the trees. Now, we're just outside of Standale, where it impacted Standale's business district after hours. I'm estimating, but tornado was on the ground, I believe, from 7 to 8 p.m. It was on the ground for about an hour, hour and a half. I forget off the top of my head, but we're going to go to Standale, and then I'm going to walk and kind of talk about this tornado a little bit, kind of like how I did with the F4.
At this point, the tornado has crossed from Hudsonville into Fennessy Lake and now going towards Standale's business district. Standale was just becoming a bustling town. They had just been building a bunch of new industry. All the pictures you're seeing right now are mostly from Hudsonville. Very few are from Grand River, and a few are from Standale, right, like this one. And then these ones, this is Hudsonville as well, or Jenison, one of those areas. But there's also pictures of the tornado lured in here. This tornado was very violent. It was rated F5. At this point, it's only about halfway through its path. It's going to be on the ground for 48 total miles up into Trufant. As we get into the areas of Standale, you'll see it looks a whole lot different than it used to. It used to not have any trees, as you saw. Now, it's bustling again and thriving. You can never tell a tornado once ripped through there 70 years ago.
Where I am does not look how it would have 70 years ago. 70 years ago, Standale was just getting off the ground. We're in the direct path of where the F5 went through, and you can't tell just because it's built back up. But there was one that also right there that could theoretically be a sign of it. I doubt it. Where it was, I don't know what building it used to be, but there was a store here that it was a family-run grocery store, not one of the big chains. I don't even think chains existed in 1956. If they did, they were just starting. But they were cleaning up after business hours, which probably about between 7 and 8 p.m. You gotta remember, this is the 50s. Not everyone comes out late at night. And since that happened, there were people inside this grocery store, the family. They heard, the kids saw the funnel coming from Fennessy Lake, where it was doing damage. And they ran into the basement, is according to what the National Weather Service says. they ran into the basement of this store. Which is really odd that the store has a basement, but this is the 50s. Who knows? It's really loud out here, so it's hard to truly talk about it. But this is one of the areas where no fatalities occurred. The fatalities could be much higher if it was during business hours. Now I'm going to go down to the F3 because I don't have the ability. The final place I would like to go for the F5, not really worth it. Nothing to see there as well. It's just the last place fatalities occurred that day. One of the last. A trailer park just outside of Grand Rapids was hit, where 2 people tragically lost their lives. I'm getting back in my car now because it's still pretty chilly out. It's about 33, 35 degrees out. But the sun has come out, which is beautiful. I kind of wish that was out during Oval Beach, but hey, it is what it is. Can't complain. We are now going to be going down as basically very southern Michigan, down to Bangor, technically just south of Bangor, however it's pronounced. I always mispronounce that town. And then we'll make our way up towards Allegan, where on Eagle Lake, F3 damage occurred at a resort from that tornado, and the rest of it is just kind of open fields, nothing that major. So there's only going to be really 2 places we stop, where it touched down and the worst damage. But one last look at Standale nowadays. It's hard to believe that 70 years ago, this would have, technically 70 years ago when I'm recording this, it would have looked fine. It would have looked a little bit more like what those buildings look like. I believe that building, that brick, I'm going to actually do a better view on for you.
I didn't do a better view. It didn't turn out great. I'm sorry. But now we're down near Bangor, just south of the town, where the final tornado in West Michigan touched down while the Hudsonville F5 was still on the ground. The Bangor to Lowell F3 touched down about 30 minutes into the Hudsonville F5's lifespan. It lifted about 30 minutes after the Hudsonville F5 did. This tornado was on the ground for the longest, at 55 miles. The images you're going to be seeing, that I don't see yet because I'm recording this before adding the pictures, are the images that were taken of the damage of the tornado. The worst of it being this last one that should begin now. And that will be the damage along Fennessy Lake, where I'm going to be very soon after this one spot at the very beginning of the tornado's path.
Okay, so I didn't do real thorough looking. I can't get out at where this tornado touched down. It's just it's a swamp. I'll show you what I mean. It touched down, the F3 touched down kind of where those trees would be. This is a muddy road, so I don't want to sit too long, but it would have gone right through here. And when I turn around, there are trees that kind of in the area. I did not see anything. This is also near the beginning, so there's not going to be much. But like you can see, it's not the greatest to get out, and there's much literally right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the last spot and record there. Okay, now I'm at the final point of damage. Eagle Lake, where I don't know exactly where it would be, but right around this side, that might be a little bit farther up. The tornado came right along this road. I do think it's right through here because these look like newer-ish homes. I'll look at my map and then get back. Okay, so where I was, that was where it went through. It then proceeded, kind of can kind of see a slight path. It continued on towards Allegan, and that was the end of the tornado. Then it went through a lot of rural farm areas. But after all of those 3 tornadoes in West Michigan, the Saugatuck to Holland F4 at 9 miles on the ground, the Hudsonville F5, 50 some miles on the ground, and then the Bangor to Lowell F3, 55 miles on the ground. Over 300 people were injured on April 3rd, 1956, 70 years ago. 17 people, unfortunately, lost their lives. The very end of this video, after Future Me says a little bit more, it's going to be all 17 names. There's going to be no audio, just the names. All 17 people who unfortunately lost their lives on April 3rd, 1956. 17 people that were killed range from ages 3 to 87 years old. Most of these deaths occurring around the Hudsonville, Jenison area. One of them occurred in Standale. 2 of them occurred in a trailer park. 1 of them occurred after the trailer park when a home collapsed onto a woman. Now I'm going to let Future Me talk a little bit, and Future Me talk, that's what it's gonna be. Future Me. This is the day after, about almost exactly 24 hours since I last recorded. I said Future Me is gonna talk. Future Me is here now. Since then, I don't know what I covered. I forget already. I'm not gonna rewatch it. But we've learned more. We've learned a lot more since April 3rd, 1956 about severe weather. We know how to forecast. We know how to warn. Can this happen again? Yes. We've seen that recently in Michigan. The strongest tornado since the EF scale was introduced occurred earlier this month. Will we have a system like this again? It's in our past. It's our history. Yes, we will have something like this again. It's only a matter of time. The unfortunate part of this is that if it were to happen again, if it were to happen today, these tornadoes would be going through population much more. Maybe not the F3, but the Saugatuck to Holland F4, population its whole life. The Hudsonville F5, population its whole life. We've learned our lessons from tornadoes of the past to prepare ourselves for tornadoes of the future. We know this because people can be warned up to 30 minutes ahead of time for when a tornado warning is issued. Back in the 50s, this wasn't a thing. The first ever tornado warning was in 1948 for only an Air Force base in Oklahoma. They didn't become normal till later on. Nowadays, we have science that shows us days in ahead of what is going to happen, what could happen, what setups are looking like. I'm going to link all the things that I used for research in the description of this video. If they're not there right away, that's because I forgot to, because I don't have all of them. But as soon as I'm back from vacation, they will be linked in the description. There's also a song out there, I'm not sure if I've already said this, called Hudsonville, Michigan, 1956, Hudsonville MI technically, by La Dispute. It's kind of a rocky type song, rock metal. I don't know the exact way to describe it. It's a good song. I recommend it. Anyways, I've spent enough time yapping about this tornado. I'm now going to leave you with a few more words about these tornadoes, just while I finish a few things. The Hudsonville F5, that was on the ground for 52 miles. Touchdown at 6:30, lifted at 7:30. The Bangor to Lowell F3 was on the ground for 55 miles. Touchdown at 7:15 p.m., lifted at 8:30 p.m. And the Saugatuck to Holland, the first one of the day, only on the ground for 9 miles, started at 5:45 p.m., lifted at 6 p.m. These tornadoes all were devastating to West Michigan. The Hudsonville F5 was the most significant one of the day. One thing I did not cover, this is kind of now the final coverings of things that I found. The Hudsonville F5, one of the most incredible feats of damage, in my opinion, that it did, was completely suck off every tile off a foundation, making it just concrete. No pipes, no debris, nothing left on it. Another thing I learned is the Hudsonville, Michigan F5 lifted a car fleeing from the funnel to the tops of telephone poles before it came crashing down on the roof, killing 2 of the occupants of the vehicle. The driver and passenger unfortunately passed away. The 2 people in the back seat survived. This is basically all. There's one other thing I'm going to link. It's a video that's not that well known, as well as I'll also link the song and all other links for the videos or links for all the research I did. And I'm glad that I can make this video. And now the final bit in memory of the 17 people that lost their lives due to the Hudsonville, Michigan F5 on April 3rd, 1956.